Now everybody's talking about it, that Cassie is suing Sean, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Love, Combs for $30 million with some serious, serious allegations. Um, I went through the 35 pages of the filing, and we're going to go through it here. Not all of it, but we're going to go through some of it. We're going to, let you know what's in there and some things surrounding it because that is where we are. We are. And that's where a lot of people are going to be because, there's going to be a lot of commentary surrounding this. What I can tell you is that it was filed in the Southern District, I believe it is, in New York, federal court, right? And this case, yeah, the Southern District of New York. This particular court district handles a lot of high profile cases. As I mentioned, it is a federal court. So, for those of you that were hoping you were going to get to see Diddy and Cassie in court and the lawyers and all of that, not likely to happen. This court isn't known for doing that. Here's the thing that a lot of people immediately thought or got into when news of this story was released. One, there have been alleged rumors about certain things regarding Diddy for years. People have known that. It's been whispered, shouted, whatever around the industry, right? And there are some that believe that Cassie stepping up in this way will cause a domino effect and that others will want to speak out too. Now, obviously, we know that we have heard through the years about the contracts, the Diddy deals, and things of that nature. We know that recently he offered to give publishing back to several bad boy artists, but it came with a caveat that Aubrey O'Day mentioned, and that was an NDA. And in it, one of the things that was stated was that you could not discuss or make disparaging remarks about Diddy or his mother in any capacity. And if you didn't agree to that, then you would not be able to get the rights back to your music. Well, some signed, some did not. Aubrey said that she did not sign. And naturally, when news came out about this lawsuit, she immediately tweeted out an old interview that she had done from years, not too old, but, some time ago. And in it, she alluded to, maybe Diddy might possibly be, a dangerous person. She also said, it's about time you guys believe me. Naturally, other people are sharing stories, finding old interview clips, and relating information as to why they think that there might be fire with this smoke. So here's a couple of things that people have brought up. We know a few weeks ago, Diddy was on Jimmy Kimmel, I believe it was. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel. And right around that same time, a rumor had been released, I believe from Gene Dahl, his former bodyguard, where it was soon after the Will and Jada drama. And Gene alleged that there was some point back in the day when Diddy was dating J Lo that he wanted to fight Will Smith because he believed that Jada and Will were trying to pick up J Lo. Diddy denied this when Jimmy asked him that and asked him where he heard such things. He said the internet. Fast forward to now, it's looking kind of interesting, as some people are also pointing out the NDAs that are out there. There are also things like an old story that happened with J. Cole, allegedly from a few years ago. It was some event, and this is from Complex that I'm reading from, but at the time, what happened? According to the report, Diddy was furious that J. Cole had gotten close to his girlfriend Cassie. J. Cole didn't back down from Diddy's alleged verbal threats A source who witnessed the drama go down at PhD, a rooftop lounge at the Dream downtown told the New York Post. This was years ago, right? J. Cole allegedly was saying inappropriate things to Diddy and Cassie. Diddy immediately pounced. Some pushing and shoving happened. No punches were thrown, but it was a visible disturbance. A few bottles splashed, etc. This was some years back, right? And there's some other things. So we'll get into some of those other rumors, but for now, let me read you a couple of things about the case that, well, the allegations that were in the filing. So, Cassie says that Diddy was controlling from the very beginning of their relationship. They met in 2005 when she was 19. Of course, she was dating Ryan Leslie at the time. She says that he would often give her drugs, including ecstasy, ketamine, which she believes led to her memory loss, which she says she still deals with today. She also claimed that Diddy would beat her multiple times a year, but she was scared to report it to the police in fear that she would be abused more. In fact, in 2009, Diddy allegedly became enraged when he saw her talking to another artist, another talent agent, and he allegedly pushed her into a car, kicked her repeatedly in the face, making her bleed. The suit also said that after seeing the violent repercussions, Cassie felt that saying no to him would cost her something, whether that be her family, her friends, her career, or even her life. Now, this allegation is truly crazy in itself, another one. It said in another incident, Diddy grew so angry about her dating Kid Cudi, this was allegedly in 2012, that he blew up the Cudi's car. He said around that time, the suit explains, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. And she also claims that Diddy once hung someone off of a 17th floor balcony. She said that in the suit, she also alleges that he began coercing her to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. And it says that in it, she was directed to have sex with a succession of male prostitutes while Diddy watched and entertained himself in the process. And that he also shot video of this. So, one, we have to wonder, is the video somewhere around? Is that part of Cassie's case? Possibly could be. She said that the sessions were called freak offs and that during one of these sessions, he allegedly punched her in the face, giving her a black eye, and that it was caught on camera, but that he paid for it to disappear. So, Diddy's attorney, Ben Brafman, has denied the claims in a statement to the New York Times. He said that Cassie has been demanding money from the Bad Boy Records founder. And he said, I quote, Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Miss Ventura's persistent demands of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. It continues that despite withdrawing her initial threat, Miss Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation and seeking a payday. Cassie's lawyer, of course, his name is Douglas Wildor, is saying something totally different. He told the New York Times that his client and Diddy spoke before she filed the lawsuit, and that Diddy actually offered her money to remain silent. So here's the thing about her lawyer, because I looked him up too, right? And he is an employee lawyer, right? And he handles cases dealing with employers and employees. As a matter of fact, one of his famous cases that he recently dealt with involved a hotel maid suing like the head of a corporation. So one, filing in New York was definitely a power move. Some of the accusations happened here in Los Angeles, California. And there is I can't remember the exact name of the new law that extends the window that people are allowed to file suits under this. Oh, and I should be clear that this is a civil lawsuit. There are no criminal charges that have been filed against Diddy. And at this point in time, as far as I'm aware, there are no plans, at least as of today, there's nothing been stated that any criminal charges will develop from this. So it's strictly a civil suit. However, as I said, Cassie's lawyer, not for the weak. He specializes in this sort of cross section, and I'm sure there are other cases, but high profile cases that involve employee employer relations and that also have an element of, assault, sexual assault involved in them. So he has experience in this area. He has tried high profile cases and he is very experienced in the ways of New York's Southern District. It also should be said that, you know, this is not something that will necessarily happen quickly. This is just the filing. There are lots of stages and motions that have to be gone through in something like this, discovery or whatever. If it makes it that far, it's possible a settlement could be reached beforehand. But more than likely, if it does go to trial, it won't be until sometime next year. So get ready for that. But as I mentioned, that court is very specific. They do not allow cameras. So those of you that are thinking that you will get to see all of the salacious action, you will not. That's not the way it's going down. But again, like I told you, I did go through the case and read, well, the filing, I should say, and read some of what Cassie is alleging. And, it is pretty intensive, right? So it starts off by saying defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive, popularly known by his stage name. He rose to prominence in the music and entertainment industry over the 90s and as of decades is regularly referred to as a hip hop mogul. In 2022, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award, and during his acceptance speech, he said, I have to give a special shout out and thank you to the people that were really there for me. He named a number of people before adding, and also Cassie for holding me down in dark times. So, again, these things are coming back up. And it goes on to say the truth, however, is that Cassie was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent and disturbed demands. Those dark times were times she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse. I mentioned she said that he attacked her and assaulted her in her own home when she tried to break up with him. She mentioned that he blew up Kid Cudi's car, forced her to engage with sex workers. Listen, Cassie says that Diddy would have her go online and use search words like, I can't even really say, but to find male prostitutes that were big, black, and loaded to bring over to the situation. Um, she said that he pressured her for years. He knew that she had a boyfriend. He still pursued her and put her in situations because she was signed to Bad Boy where she felt she couldn't afford to say no. That he showed up uninvited to her 21st birthday party with lavish gifts to impress her friends. That initially he played the role of like concerned older brother or dad. She does mention that his age, he is 20 years older than her almost. Um, in their relationship, she felt played a part in it. She is alleging that, for some of her physical ailments that she went through, he even had access to her medical records, that her medical records were directed to go there, that there were times when she tried to escape from him. He had people track her down. I mean, it's very serious, very controlling allegations. One of the things, the story about him beating her up, and hitting her in the face. The irony is that that is a story, almost word for word, the way that it is written in this document, that has been circulating online and on one of the popular online message boards for years, a message board called Lipstick Alley, literally word for word, probably more than 13 years ago, that story was relayed. So, again, it's going to be really, really interesting to watch. And this was she's coming at it from an employer and employee perspective. So there are different sort of elements that can be brought in. I'm obviously not a lawyer, so I am not qualified to break that aspect of it down, but let's get into how she said he lured her into a relationship. She said despite her clear rejection of his advances, Diddy continued to demand that Cassie spend time with him, including a weekend at his residence in Miami and for nights out in New York City. On one particular night around September of 2007, she said that he insisted on taking her out and that she feared rejecting the request, it would have caused repercussions for her album and her deal with Bad Boy Records. She said that he picked her up at her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle, and that when she got in the car, she was surprised that Diddy was already inebriated. She said he handed her a pill and told her to take it. When she asked what the pill was, he dismissed her and told her that she would like it. She said she later learned that it was ecstasy, something that she had never tried before. And that was the first time she said that he got her high. She said he proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down the West Side Highway of Manhattan. She was scared, but she didn't want to object because he already appeared to be drunk, high, and agitated. She said when they arrived at an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan, he proceeded to get an altercation with the security of the venue because they would not let him in, presumably because he was belligerent, right? Cassie decided to go home that night. She said that he became incessantly complaining that she had left him high and alone. He then used his influence to create a fake flyer that she could show to her then boyfriend at the time, I believe Ryan Leslie, to say that she had an appearance in Miami to lure her down to Miami so that Ryan wouldn't come so that he could get her alone. She said she was uncomfortable with it, but went through it anyway for fear of repercussion. Listen, one of the things that, people mention and talk about, not often, but it is the idea that as much as, people are for women, get the bag, do, get a rich figure paying my, all of that stuff, right? There's an element of control, right? No matter if we're talking of the age difference, any of that. If someone is paying all of your bills and funding a lifestyle, there is an element of control that you cannot escape. That is the reality of it. That is not, you know, that's not to say that every person that is wealthy or every, in that position is going to be controlling or abusive, like Cassie is alleging for him. But it's just there's a certain dynamic that comes when you can't pay for yourself. You know that. Think about the situations. We have all of these conversations all of the time about, men think women are going to dinner with them because they're hungry or they want to try a new restaurant or whatever. Think about the idea. It sounds all fun. It's all fun and games until you want to, buy chicken instead of turkey for dinner and your person won't give you the extra $10 or your credit card to do so. So there's a lot of layers here, a lot of aspects of it that can be debated, and I'm sure will, because as I said, this isn't going to be something that is going to wrap up quickly or that we're going to get a bunch of more, as far as right now at least, things that come out from the initial filing. Like I said, it's not going to be this filing happens and they're in court next week. It's going to take some time. But I do think potentially there could be some other people out there, if this proves to be correct, that might want to support Cassie. And, again, we'll have to see. As mentioned, this is, he's an employee, an employer attorney, a labor attorney. So, there's lots of complicated things. So I mentioned that there was a section in the brief, page 17, if you're curious or found it, um, where it talks about some of the websites and escort services that Diddy allegedly had Cassie visit. This is what it says. It says Miss Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male sex workers excuse me, to participate in the freak offs. Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura to search for a large black, you fill in the eggplant word, right, on the website. Sometimes, she said, Mr. Combs would pay to fly the male sex workers to his locations, including to multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Miss Ventura and his staff to help him make the arrangements. Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up the freak offs, including setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. This is in the filing. Okay. It also says Mr. Combs always supplied Miss Ventura and the sex worker with tons of drugs before and during the freak off. Miss Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during the freak offs, which allowed her to disassociate herself during those horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluids in the days after the freak offs to recover from the excessive substances that were pushed upon her. She says she was required to dress up in lingerie for the freak offs, and that Diddy insisted she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the men, the black men, he hired to have sex with her. They also say that during the freak offs, Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil all over herself. He would then instruct her and the sex worker to speak to each other, and then would specifically tell Cassie where to touch the sex workers. He would say things like, grab that big black beep, and ask her how does it feel, as he directed her to perform for him. They also said that during these sessions, in addition to directing her and pleasuring himself, that Diddy would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film her having sex with the hired worker. He then forced the encounter as a personal pet project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting and to frame the videos so that they had a certain look. She said she quickly deleted any photographs or videos of the sex act if they were on her phone, but Mr. Combs repeatedly made it clear that he retained many of the videos of her during the freak off sessions. She said even when the deleted videos, um, he would, even when she deleted the videos, he would tell her that he was always able to recover the deleted videos from her devices. And on one occasion, he sat next to her on a flight and made her watch the video she thought he deleted, reinforcing her inability to escape and the immense power that he held over her. Again, like I said, that's on pages 17 and 18 of the brief. You can read more for yourself. We'll get a little more into it. I also want to mention that a few years back, there was a woman named Gina. She was a girlfriend. We remember, I think it was earlier this summer or late last year, she actually was arguing on Instagram and Twitter with Young Miami because she and Diddy broke up. She made several accusations. She even went on Tasha K to discuss these accusations, but later got back with him. She claimed that he kicked her in the stomach, hit her in the head, just all, types of serious abuse again accusations that people said was a money grab that people kind of overlooked because she chose to go to Tasha K's platform and express this. Some people thought that she wasn't credible. And then, the fact that she eventually got back with him and was wearing the love necklace and, you know, showing love for Diddy after the fact. We know that things are complicated when we talk about domestic violence victims and some of the moves they make and the reasons behind it. And it's a very layered and complex subject. So it's hard to attack it from one side or just not to be able to view all types of things that happen with this because motivations are different for everyone. So listen, Cassie said in 2005 Diddy pursued her even though she was in a relationship and he too was in a relationship with Kim Porter. So of course, people are bringing up things surrounding Kim Porter and her untimely passing and some of the comments that Al B. Sure made at the time alleging that there was some foul play surrounding Kim's death. Some are also pointing out that in 2005, when Diddy was still with Kim, there were rumors that during a trip, Diddy allegedly damaged Kim's nose badly because he was jealous that she had started seeing an actor and that Diddy allegedly threatened or physically did put hands on this particular actor. So, again, there are a lot of old stories, old rumors that are being brought to the surface that people are discussing, that people are, trying to connect the dots to. So, another thing that was mentioned in the case was that Cassie said, Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him, and Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blind loyalty from everyone in his inner circle, which we see that. We see him allude to things like that on Instagram and Twitter. We have for years, right? She said Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and would repeatedly tell her, "Don't worry about it, I have money." He lavished expensive vacations for him and her, purchased a car for her, paid for an apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. She said around 2008 or 2009, he began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for her. The apartment was within walking distance of his New York residence. He first showed her the apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Her parents were skeptical of, she said, his displays of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. She said around 2010, he similarly paid for an apartment for her in Los Angeles that was again about 5 minutes away from his residence. She said that he paid for several apartments in California and also purchased a Jaguar for her. I'm assuming they mean the car and not the animal, in 2013 or 2014. She said that all aspects of her life were controlled by either him or his management companies. Every event she attended, from travel to makeup to clothing, was paid for directly by Diddy or his affiliated companies, which also leads into why this civil suit is being handled by, again, an employer-employee relations attorney. She said that compounding all of this all-encompassing intrusion into her life, that he also introduced her, as we've mentioned, to the drug fueled lifestyle that kept her complacent and compliant. She said that she was first introduced to opiates around 2008 by him and that he would often have pills and other drugs out in the open like candy. She was the belief that he had been addicted to prescription drugs and painkillers, and he looked to have a friend to, connect with over that, and that he took ecstasy frequently as well. She said that she was given prescriptions that Diddy received from a doctor in Miami. Eventually, when he exhausted the supply of pills, he demanded that Cassie procure prescriptions from the Miami doctor in her own name. She said that he became so deeply involved in her personal life that he would have his personal staff attend attending to her day to day travel and other needs, including medical care. She said on multiple occasions, he had her personal medical records sent directly to his email address. For example, when she first said that she began experiencing memory loss, potentially due to the excessive drug use and or head injuries that she's alleging were caused by his beatings, that her MRI results were sent directly to him and that he repeatedly arranged for his staff to drive her to certain doctor's appointments. She said in this way he exerted ownership over her, and as another example of the ways in which he manipulated her and ensured obedience early on in their relationship. He asked what she called her grandfather. When she said that she referred to her grandfather as Pop Pop, he perversely insisted that she start calling Diddy Pop Pop as well. So, it's a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. She said that what first started off as whirlwind celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol fueled parties quickly turned violent. She said that she was exposed to the intense violence that the rise to fame, took her on. She said that one night they were using drugs together in his home, and one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight was spotted at Mel's drive-in, that's on Sunset Boulevard, and that Diddy began to get dressed. Went and got multiple guns from a safe and ran out of his home to where he believed that Suge was dining. And Cassie said she was so scared that she began to cry. She said on at least two occasions, Diddy demanded that she hold the blicky in her purse. She said that she had no familiarity with the gun or guns and was petrified that the firearm might actually go off in her purse. Now, we know that back in the day, there was an incident that involved Diddy and J-Lo and Shine in a New York nightclub. I'm just saying that, you know, innocent until proven guilty, of course. However, there are some things that look and sound a tad familiar. Obviously, we won't know for quite some time, but it does sound similar to some of the things we've heard before. She also said over the next decade, multiple times each year, Diddy would violently beat her, leaving bruises on her body. And after every instance in which he beat her, she said that he used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including hiding her in hotels for days at a time to let the bruises heal. In one such instance, she said it was an after party with Jay-Z, and he beat her repeatedly in an Escalade, including kicking and hitting her. That he forced her out of the vehicle on Fifth Avenue in New York City, and she eventually had to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan. And she said that she was fearful because she couldn't tell anyone what was happening to her from this extremely powerful man. She said she spent 3 days hiding in her apartment. She said that in 2009, after he learned that she spoke to another music manager at a party, he became enraged, and she thought he would be happy for her, but instead he became extremely angry, pulled her out of the club where the party was taking place, and into a car where he beat her, pushing her into a corner of the vehicle and stomping on her face. She said that his security staff, Roger Bonds, tried to stop the beating but was unable to de-escalate the situation, and that when the car arrived at his residence and she attempted to run away, he followed her and proceeded to kick her again. So again, like I said, this story is going to continue to evolve. Um, I do expect that we will hear something from other people. Things are already starting to come out. People are starting to bring up the parties that Diddy used to have back in the day with Usher when he worked with Usher on his first album. There are all types of things that they are trying to connect the dots to. I just hope that, if any portion of this is true, that Cassie has continued on her healing journey and that she feels safe and secure.